Video opens with a funny clip of a cat looking disdainfully at its food bowl, then back at the owner. Hey, cat moms and cat dads! Does this scene look familiar? You spend ages in the pet food aisle, staring at a wall of colourful bags, all promising a happy, healthy, super cat. You pick the one with the majestic-looking cat on the front, bring it home, and your own fluffy tyrant gives it a sniff, looks up at you with pure judgment and walks away. You're left wondering, is he broken? Or am I a terrible cat parent? The truth is, you're not a bad parent, but you might be getting tricked by some very clever marketing. Today, we're going on a mission. We are going to become cat food detectives. I'm going to show you how to read that confusing label and expose what's really in your cat's dinner. Get ready to decode the secrets. First, drop the name of your furry food critic in the comments below. Alright, before we put on our detective hats, we need to understand our suspect. I'm talking about the domestic house cat, aka the tiny lion sleeping on your laptop right now. The single most important thing to remember is that cats are obligate carnivores. That's a super fancy scientific term that basically means meat is not a suggestion, it's the law. Unlike us humans who can survive on a salad, or dogs who are a bit more flexible, cats are biologically built to get all their essential nutrients from animal tissue. Their digestive systems are short and acidic, designed to process meat efficiently. They can't create certain vital nutrients like taurine or vitamin A on their own. They have to get it from their prey. So, when we're looking at cat food, we're not looking for a balanced meal in the human sense. We're looking for the next best thing to a fresh mouse, but, without the squeaking and the mess. Keep that tiny, purring predator in mind as we dive into the ingredients list. First up, let's talk about the front of the bag. This is the prime real estate for marketing, the place where companies lure you in with beautiful pictures and fancy words. You'll see things like gourmet, premium, natural, or holistic. Now, let me tell you a little secret. Most of these words mean absolutely nothing. There is no official, regulated definition for premium or gourmet in the cat food world. It's like calling your Tuesday leftovers a curated culinary experience. It sounds nice, but it doesn't change what it is. The word natural has a slightly more specific definition, meaning it's free from artificial colours, flavours or preservatives, which is good. But don't let these buzzwords be your only guide. The real truth, the juicy gossip, isn't on the front. It's hiding on the back in tiny print. So, step 1 of being a food detective. Ignore the flashy promises on the front and flip that bag over. Okay, you've flipped the bag. The first thing you'll probably see is a box called the Guaranteed Analysis. This looks super official and scientific, right? It lists percentages for things like crude protein, crude fat, crude fibre, and moisture. The word crude here just means the method of measurement, not that the protein is rude to its mother. This box gives you a baseline, but it can be misleading. It only shows you the minimum percentages for protein and fat, and the maximum for fibre and moisture. So if a bag says minimum 30% crude protein, it could have 32%, or it could have 45%. You don't really know the exact amount. It's a starting point, but it doesn't tell you the most important thing, the quality and source of those nutrients. A shoe can have protein, but you wouldn't want your cat eating it. The Guaranteed Analysis is a piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole picture. Now we're getting to the good stuff, the ingredient list. This is where the real secrets are buried. Here's the golden rule, the one thing you need to remember if you forget everything else. Ingredients are listed by weight, from heaviest to lightest, before cooking. This means the first 3 to 5 ingredients make up the bulk of what your cat is actually eating. This is your moment of truth. If the first ingredients are amazing, the food is likely pretty good. If the first ingredients are questionable, you can probably put that bag right back on the shelf. We want to see the stars of the show listed first. Think of it like a movie poster. You want to see the A-list actors' names at the top, not the name of the guy who delivered coffee to the set. In the cat food movie, the A-listers are always high-quality animal proteins. We'll get into exactly which ones in just a second. Let's zoom in on the undisputed king of the ingredient list, protein. As we established, your cat is a tiny meat-eating machine. Their entire body is designed to run on animal-based protein. So, when you scan that list, the very first ingredient should, without a doubt, be a named animal source. I'm talking about things you'd recognise as food yourself, like deboned chicken, salmon, turkey, duck, or beef. When you see the specific animal named, it's a huge green flag. It tells you the company is confident in its source and isn't trying to hide anything. This is the good stuff. It's digestible, packed with the amino acids your cat needs, like taurine, which is critical for their heart and eye health. Seeing chicken first on the list is like getting a front row ticket. Seeing something else, well, that's when we need to get suspicious. Now let's venture into the slightly shadowy world of protein sources. You might see something called chicken meal or salmon meal. Don't panic, this actually isn't a bad thing. Meal just means that the meat has been cooked down to remove the water, creating a concentrated protein powder. In fact, chicken meal can have a higher protein percentage by weight than whole chicken, which contains a lot of water. So, a named meat meal, like chicken meal or turkey meal, in the first few ingredients is perfectly fine and often a sign of a high-protein food. The key word here is named. You know it's chicken. The problem arises when things get vague, which brings us to our next point, the really sketchy stuff you need to watch out for in the ingredient underworld. Alright, let's talk about the ingredient that makes most cat parents shudder, meat byproducts, or poultry byproducts. What even is that? According to the official definition, byproducts are the clean, non-rendered parts of the animal, other than the main muscle meat. This can include things like lungs, spleen, kidneys, liver, and intestines. Now, in the wild, a cat would eat these parts of its prey, and they are full of nutrients. The liver, for example, is a great source of vitamin A. The problem with the term byproducts on a label is the lack of specificity. It doesn't tell you which parts from which animal or in what proportion. It's a mystery box of organs. While not inherently evil, a food that relies heavily on byproducts instead of muscle meat as its primary protein source is likely a lower quality food. We prefer transparency. If byproducts are the shadowy back alley, then meat and bone meal or animal digest is the creepy, unmarked van parked in it. These are giant, flashing neon red flags. When you see a generic term like meat or animal without specifying the source, you should be very, very skeptical. This is the lowest quality protein source available. It can be sourced from literally any animal, and the term 4D meats is often associated with it. That's dead, dying, diseased, or disabled animals. Animal digest is a chemically hydrolyzed broth made from unspecified animal tissues. It's primarily used as a flavour enhancer to make low-quality food taste better to your cat. If you see these vague, mysterious terms high up on the ingredient list, my advice is simple. Run. Put the bag down and walk away. Your cat deserves better than a mystery meat surprise. Now that we've covered the star of the show, protein, let's talk about the supporting actors that often try to steal the spotlight. Carbohydrates. Here's the deal. Cats have little to no nutritional requirement for carbohydrates. Their bodies are not designed to process them well. In the wild, the only carbs a cat would eat would be the tiny amount found in the stomach of its prey. So why are carbs in almost every dry cat food? 2 reasons. They are cheap fillers that bulk up the food, and they are necessary to hold the kibble bits together in their shape. A little bit is unavoidable in dry food, but a lot is a problem. A high-carb diet can lead to obesity and other health issues in cats. They fill your cat up without providing the right kind of energy, leading to that sleepy potato vibe after a meal. So, what are the biggest carbohydrate villains to watch out for? The number 1 offender, the Darth Vader of the cat food world, is corn. You'll see it listed as corn gluten meal, ground yellow corn, or just corn. Corn is a cheap filler that offers very little nutritional value for a carnivore. It's difficult for cats to digest and is a common allergen. Companies love it because it's an inexpensive way to boost the protein percentage on the guaranteed analysis box, but it's plant-based protein, which isn't what your cat needs. If you see any form of corn as one of the first 5 ingredients, it's a huge indicator that the food is a lower quality, grain-heavy product. Your tiny tiger doesn't need corn on the cob. It needs actual meat to thrive, so just say no to corn. Alongside corn, there are a few other common carb fillers to be wary of. Let's talk about wheat and soya. Just like corn, these are often used as cheap fillers and binders in lower quality cat foods. You might see them listed as wheat flour, wheat gluten, or soybean meal. Many cats can have sensitivities or allergies to wheat and soy, which can manifest as skin problems, itchiness, or digestive upset. Again, the issue is that these ingredients are providing calories and bulk without the species-appropriate nutrition your little carnivore needs. We want the food's calories to come primarily from protein and fat, not from a bunch of plant-based fillers that their bodies aren't equipped to handle. So, check that ingredient list for these sneaky carbs hiding near the top. Okay, let's move on to the third major component of your cat's food, fat. Now, in the human world, fat can be a scary word, but for your cat, it's an essential source of energy. It's more energy dense than protein or carbs, and it's what gives your cat the fuel for those 3 a.m. zoomies across the living room. Fat is also crucial for absorbing certain vitamins and for maintaining a healthy coat and skin. But just like with protein, the source of the fat matters immensely. What you want to see is a named animal fat source. The best case scenario is something like chicken fat or salmon oil. These are high-quality, recognizable sources that provide beneficial omega fatty acids. Salmon oil, in particular, is fantastic for reducing inflammation and keeping that fur silky smooth. Just as there are mystery meats, there are also mystery fats, and they are just as big of a red flag. If you look at the ingredient list and see a vague term like animal fat, you should be cautious. What kind of animal? We don't know. It's rendered fat from unspecified sources, which means the quality can be inconsistent and questionable. It's often preserved with chemical preservatives to keep it from going rancid, which brings its own set of problems we'll discuss in a bit. Good companies are proud of their ingredients and will tell you exactly what's in the food. Chicken fat is transparent. Animal fat is a mystery. And when it comes to your cat's health, we don't like mysteries. Always opt for the food that tells you exactly where its fat is coming from. Alright, let's find another important clue on the back of the bag. Look for a small line of text that says something like, animal feeding tests using AAFCO procedures substantiate that provides complete and balanced nutrition. This is the AAFCO statement. AAFCO stands for the Association of American Feed Control Officials. They set the nutritional standards for pet foods in the United States. This statement is basically the official stamp of approval saying, yes, this food meets the minimum nutritional requirements to keep a cat alive and won't cause any immediate harm. There are 2 types of statements, one based on feeding trials and one based on formulation to meet a profile. The feeding trial one is generally considered better. While the AAFCO statement doesn't guarantee a food is high quality, a food without this statement is a major red flag. It means it's not a complete diet. Let's talk about the little guys on the list, the vitamins and minerals. After the main ingredients, you'll see a long list of things that sound like they came out of a chemistry textbook. These are the added supplements to make sure the food is nutritionally complete. This is normal and necessary. One of the most important ones to see on this list for cats is taurine. As we mentioned, cats can't produce their own taurine, an essential amino acid. A taurine deficiency can lead to severe health problems, including blindness and a heart condition called dilated cardiomyopathy. Any decent cat food will have added taurine. If for some reason you see a food that claims to be complete and balanced, but doesn't list taurine in the ingredients or guarantee, that's a huge problem. It's a non-negotiable ingredient for your cat's long-term health. Now let's talk about how companies keep that bag of kibble from going bad on the shelf for months or even years. They use preservatives, and there are good preservatives and there are bad preservatives. The ones you want to avoid are the artificial, chemical ones. Be on the lookout for BHA, butylated hydroxyanisole, BHT, butylated hydroxytoluene, and ethoxyquin. These are controversial chemicals that have been linked to health problems in some studies. Ethoxyquin, in particular, was originally developed as a rubber stabilizer and is not even permitted for use in human foods in many places. While they are effective at preserving fats, the potential risks are a concern for many pet owners. If you have a choice, it's always better to opt for a food that uses natural preservatives instead of these chemical ones. So what are the good preservatives? The heroes of the preservation world are natural substances. You'll most often see them listed as mixed tocopherols, which is just a fancy name for vitamin E. You might also see vitamin C, often listed as ascorbic acid, or plant extracts like rosemary extract used as natural preservatives. These are safe, effective, and can even provide some antioxidant benefits. The only downside is that foods preserved naturally have a shorter shelf life than those preserved with harsh chemicals. That's why you should always check the expiration date on the bag. But a shorter shelf life is a small price to pay for avoiding potentially harmful chemicals in your cat's daily diet. So look for those tocopherols, they're the good guys. Let's tackle a huge buzzword in the pet food industry, grain-free. Many people automatically assume that grain-free means better or healthier. And while it can be a good option, especially for cats with grain allergies, it is not automatically superior. The term can be a bit of a marketing trap. A manufacturer can remove the corn, wheat and soy, slap grain-free on the label, but then replace those grains with other high-carbohydrate fillers like potatoes, sweet potatoes or peas. And a food that's 40% potato isn't necessarily better for your little carnivore than a food with a small amount of a healthier grain, like rice. The key is not just to avoid grains, but to look for a food that is low in overall carbohydrates and high in animal-based protein, regardless of whether it's technically grain-free or not. What about wet food versus dry food labels? The rules are mostly the same, but there's one key difference you need to be aware of: moisture content. A can of wet food is typically 75–80% water, while a bag of kibble is only about 10% water. This drastically changes the percentages on the guaranteed analysis. You might look at a can of wet food and see 8% crude protein and think it's terribly low compared to the 35% crude protein in your kibble. But that's not an apples-to-apples comparison. You have to compare them on a dry matter basis. While we won't do all the math here, just know that the protein in wet food is much more concentrated than it appears. The big advantage of wet food is hydration, which is super important for cats, who naturally have a low thirst drive. The ingredient quality rules still apply. Look for named meats first. Finally, let's look at the life stage designation. You'll see foods labelled for kittens, adults, seniors, or all life stages. This isn't just a marketing ploy, it actually matters. Kittens are growing like crazy and need more calories, protein, and certain nutrients to support their development. Adult cat food is formulated for maintenance to keep a healthy adult cat in good shape without causing them to gain weight. Senior formulas might have fewer calories, but added nutrients like joint support. A food labelled for all life stages means it meets the nutritional requirements for a growing kitten, which means it might be too high in calories for a less active adult or senior cat. So, make sure you're feeding a food that's appropriate for your cat's current stage of life. It's an easy way to help meet their specific needs. Whew! Okay, cat detectives. Let's recap. You're in the store. You've got a bag in your hand. What's your 3-second scan? First, ignore the front. Flip it over. Second, scan the first 5 ingredients. Do you see a name meat or meat meal, like chicken or salmon meal? Great! Do you see corn, wheat, soy, or vague terms like meat byproducts? Maybe put it back. Third, look for scary chemical preservatives like BHA or BHT. And that's it. By focusing on the quality of the first few ingredients, you can quickly weed out the low-quality options and make a much more informed choice for your furry best friend. You don't have to be a nutritionist. You just have to know what to look for. You've got this. Your cat's dinner is now in your capable, well-informed hands. And there you have it. You are now officially a certified cat food detective, armed with the knowledge to see past the marketing fluff and get to the truth. Now you know why the first ingredient is everything, what those scary chemical names mean, and why premium doesn't always mean premium. It might seem like a lot, but remember, even small changes can make a huge difference in the health and happiness of that little fluff ball who runs your life. Because at the end of the day, despite the 4 a.m. wake-up calls and the constant threat of tripping over them, we adore them. And giving them the best food we can is one of the biggest ways we can say, I love you. If this video helped you decode your cat's food, please give it a big thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and share it with a fellow cat parent who's lost in the pet food aisle. And for my final question, go grab your cat's food bag right now. What is the number one ingredient listed? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and give your cat a scratch from me.